What is up, guys? Welcome to Dre Way Sports. We have Dwill.
Oh, my. He's running a clinic off the dribble.
Chris Paul.
Crossover and laid it in.
Well, he's so hurried on his shots because he knows they're coming on double teams.
Two of the prime point guards in their time. But I want to ask fans today who they think was the best point guard at their time. And let me just give a shout out to all you guys, too, by the way. You guys' comments and messages trying to tell me to get back really helped me to get back, man. And I'm back like I forgot something. So let's get into it. All right, guys, I'm here with Mike.
Yes.
Mike, the question of the day is, who do you think was better in their prime, Deron Williams or Chris Paul?
Chris Paul, hands down.
This is Chris Paul. Oh, what an acrobatic score!
And why do you say that? What makes you say that?
His style of play, he's much more of a floor general, in my opinion, than Deron Williams.
Okay.
And he led those Lob City teams. Granted, they never really made it out of the second round in the West, but, they're always dominant in the West.
Now, when Deron Williams and Chris Paul was going at it, where do you think Deron Williams belonged in that conversation? Number 2, number 3, where would you say he was?
I'd say he was top 5 in the league at that point, easy. But, yeah, I don't know if I could give it like 2 or 3, but he was definitely top 5, I'd say.
What do you think happened to Deron Williams? 'Cause when he got to Brooklyn, he kind of dipped real bad. What do you think happened there?
I don't know. That's one of the greatest mysteries of sports because Deron Williams was such a great player in that few years that he had, that run. But, yeah, the Nets, that's where careers go to die. KG, Paul Pierce. Yeah, Deron Williams, I don't know. If you're out there, big 3. You should get in there.
You think that Chris Paul would have won a ring if he went to the Lakers when they voted that trade back then?
Yeah, I think him and Kobe would have found a way to work together.
Mike, thanks. I appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.
All right, guys, I'm here with Anthony. Anthony, who think was better in their prime, Deron Williams or Chris Paul?
I'm going to say Chris Paul.
But you got to depend on your health. You can't keep dancing. Ooh!
Well, why you say that?
Chris Paul only because he came up as Rookie of the Year, still relevant now. And I'm not saying Deron Williams is not relevant. It's just like he still has a lot more in the tank, you know what I mean, in his prime right now. So not only that, but I think Chris Paul is more superior. He's a floor general, a great point guard, could score more than Deron Williams, in my opinion. Will was good in his Jazz days, playing with Carlos Boozer and all that stuff, but I'm really going to run with my man CP3. He had a good season. A lot of people are counting him out now because he's old, but I think if they put him in the right system and the right team finds him, I think he should go to Miami. I think he shouldn't go to OKC at all, but I honestly think Chris Paul only because he's more relevant now and he's more of a superstar player. More players, he elevates more players around him whenever he's playing. You know what I mean? So definitely.
That's fair. That's a fair assumption. Now, it's funny you said where Chris Paul should go. If you remember, back when Chris Paul was on the Hornets, he actually was about to be traded to the Lakers, and the commissioner stopped it. Where do you think his career would have been like if he had gone to the Lakers?
Would have won a championship. Would have won a championship with Kobe Bryant and Dwight, I think, at the time. Yeah, with Dwight and Paul Gasol, yeah. And I don't know what happened. I think, the commissioner stopped it. They voided it, but Chris Paul's career would have been – he would have been in that top tier of guards of all time, definitely, playing with it alongside with one of the greatest guards as well, Kobe Bryant. So, his career would have definitely been – different, but a lot of people are doubting CP3 only because it's like he's at the end of his career. I don't think it's the end of his career. He still has a little bit more in the tank. Because 2 years ago, if he would have never got injured, he would have met.
That's what people are saying. Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that, but I believe if they would have beaten, Houston would have beaten the Warriors 2 years ago if Chris Paul would have never got injured.
Most people say that. So let's just say that the Thunder somehow find a way to trade CP3. Where do you think he will best fit at?
I'm going to go with the rumors. A lot of people were saying Miami. I think him and Jimmy Butler. They're both Jordan Brand athletes, so I think that's the common thing that they have in common. Not only that, but I think Jimmy Butler is a very hungry veteran, being in the league for a couple of years right now. But he's determined to win a championship, even though he's a bum for leaving Philly. I mean, he's in Miami now. If Chris Paul does go there, they're both hungry to succeed. You know, if he does come to Miami in the upcoming season, and not only that, but Jimmy Butler can relate to someone like Chris Paul. A tough guy, very blunt, straight up, wants the best for his teammates. I think Miami would be a good destination for him.
I gotta agree with you. That actually, I never thought about it before. That might actually be a good fit because Jimmy Butler can play off the ball. Chris Paul's a ball dominant guy. Now, when Deron Williams was in his prime, I know you said you got Chris Paul 1. Where did you think Deron Williams belonged at? Was he top 5, number 2? Where was he at that time?
Well, I remember this was back. I was in middle school when I think we were actually debating Dwill, who was a better point guard at the time, Steve Nash or Deron Williams. So that was a huge debate. That was a huge debate that went on when I was like back in 8th grade. So this is before high school. But this Deron Williams, honestly, Dwill was one of the best guards at that time, especially when he was in Utah, and then when he went to after Utah, he went to the Nets.
Like that one year in Brooklyn, he did.
Yeah, he did really good, and then after that, it was just kind of like he disappeared. And I think he went to Cleveland that one year, and they lost. But Dwill, I think he needed it like star players around him at that time, and he was doing it on his own. I know him and Carlos Boozer was like that 1-2 punch, but it just wasn't enough to get past the second round in like the West. So yeah, I honestly think if Dwill was at the right team at the right time, then the CP3 Dwill debate it would have been going on now, and he'd still be in the league.
Yeah, that's true. Anthony, thanks. I appreciate it, brother.
Oh, no problem.
All right, guys, I'm here with Kevin. Kevin, who do you think is better in their prime, Deron Williams or Chris Paul?
I feel like Deron Williams got the slight edge over CP3.
Towards Toronto, the league leader in three-point percentage.
Probably because he's a bigger guard. It's a little more of a defensive liability. In terms of numbers, I can't recall the numbers off the top of my head. I feel like he was an assist threat. He could dish. You know, he was a scoring threat in the same way that CP3 was. I don't know that his three-point percentage was as good as CP3. I think he was more of an outside threat. But I only give it to Deron Williams because he was bigger. He was a bigger dude. He's a little more of a little less defensive liability. Oh, he was slow. I don't remember him playing no defense neither. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he might have been a similar kind of defensive liability. That's one of the things because Chris Paul is undersized. Right. That's a tough call, man. But I give it to Dwill, man.
Yeah, both, no doubt, both was good in their primes. Now, you're the first person actually today who chose Deron Williams.
Yeah.
Most people chose Chris Paul. So since you watched Deron Williams, what
I'm about to
happened?
get some hate mail right now, right? About to get
Nah.
people gonna find me on Instagram and feel a little way about that.
No, I actually think myself, because I watched Deron Williams too.
Yeah.
He was a bigger, stronger guy than Chris Paul.
Yeah, he was solid. I feel like that's the thing that gives him a little edge. I mean, CP3 is a little bit undersized for a guard, so you can see how folks could make a good case for Dwill over CP3 just on that. But at that time, was Dwill seeing 6'7", 6'8" quick guards in the same way in the East at that time? I'm trying to think of like who he was going against at that time at his spot, and I don't know. I think Dwill was definitely not as athletic in his prime. He's a little slow, and he fell off a lot quicker than CP3. When you're talking about just in his prime, though, I feel like Dwill got that.
That's what I was about to ask you. What do you think happened to Deron Williams? Like that dip from Utah to Brooklyn went kind of fast. What do you think happened?
I don't know. I feel like his body betrayed him a little bit. Maybe he wasn't working as hard at staying in shape. I think we take it for granted. A lot of athletes nowadays, they take care of their bodies. LeBron just spent like $1 million doing all sorts of crazy stuff to maintain his physicality. I feel like a lot of those guys, 10, 20 years ago in the league may not have been investing the same way and taking care of themselves. So that wear and tear as a guard, you're bound to fall off a little quicker. And he was heavier too. If he lost some weight and really focused on strength, he might have had a little more longevity.
Well, brother, I thank you for your opinion.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. All right, nice meeting you.
All right, guys, I'm here with Kyle. Kyle, who do you think was better in their prime, Deron Williams or Chris Paul?
feel like I'm going to have to go Chris Paul on that. I'm going to go Chris Paul. They were both good passers, both good facilitators, but at the end I just feel like Chris always made a bigger contribution, to the teams he was. Even in the, the Utah Jazz days for my man, you know what I mean? I still have to give it to CP, you know what I mean?
I know you said a little bit. What stood out differently from Chris Paul than Deron? Like, what did you think distinguished those two?
I think leadership and the ability to control the team, control the squad, get them to move is one, you know what I mean? I feel like they were both talented, but when it came to really galvanizing a unit, I feel like CP got to get that. Now,
I know you watched Deron Williams, as evident. When Deron Williams was on the Jazz, obviously he was definitely in that conversation as
dude, yeah. He was that dude, yeah.
So what do you think happened to Deron Williams when he went to the Nets and kind of seen that dip?
Honestly, I feel like the best way to say it is he got gas. You know what I mean? He knew what he was doing with the Utah Jazz. He felt like that was sustainable. I guess in my opinion, I feel like he maybe thought it was more him as opposed to the system or the coaching or the teammates. You know what I mean? So he felt like he could duplicate that success wherever he went, which ultimately turned out not to be the case, in my personal opinion. So,
in that time, did you have Deron Williams number 2, or what did you have him at on that list?
Ooh, point guards in the NBA is a tough list to crack. Ooh, you know what? I would say in the Utah Jazz days, I put him in top 5.
Okay.
Top 5, yeah.
Now, you recall, back when Chris Paul was on the Hornets, he was actually was about to be traded to the Lakers, and it got voided.
Yep, NBA cut that off.
What do you think Chris Paul's career would have been like if he had gone to the Lakers?
Multiple rings. And I know at the end of his career, if he ends up not winning a championship, I feel like that's ultimately what he's going to regret. That's going to be the one thing that sticks in his mind. What would have happened? The injury in the playoffs, you know what I mean, that. But if I had gone to the Lakers, how many rings would I really would have had?
What are you doing?
Do you think that if Kobe, do you think that Chris Paul and Kobe had like a feud? Because Chris Paul is a feisty guy and Kobe is too. You think that would have worked, that chemistry?
I think they both have really type A personalities, and they probably would have butted heads. But the one thing I do know when it comes to sports and winning, it pretty much puts the kibosh on all the negativity. You know what I mean? We win in rings. I don't really care if I don't like you. We win in rings. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I feel like their desire to win would have outweighed any type of animosity they may have had towards one another. So
absolutely right, Kyle. Winning solves all problems. Here's a man that knows sports. Kyle, thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
All right, guys, I'm here with James. James, who you think was better in their prime, Chris Paul or Deron Williams?
I would have to say Chris Paul. Prime on the Clippers, throwing lobs, cashing threes, and assists all over the court. Amazing player. I would have to go Chris Paul.
Now, even though you went with Chris Paul, when you seen Deron Williams play, you think he was close to Chris Paul, or you think it wasn't even a matchup?
I would have to say Chris Paul is just one of the most versatile point guards in the game. No, not close. I think Chris Paul just thrives and just is better, definitely.
Now, I don't know if you remember, before Chris Paul was about to be traded to the Lakers, and the commissioner stopped it. Do you think if he would have went to the Lakers with Kobe, it was Dwight Howard, it was Pau Gasol, and I think Ron Artest was on that team, you think they would have won a championship with that Chris Paul in his prime?
Yeah, I believe they could have went all the way. I mean, it would have helped if they had Shaq from back in the day, but no, yeah, Chris Paul would have helped them, definitely, indeed. They would have went all the way.
Well, brother, thanks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, DeAndre. I appreciate y'all.
There you have it, guys. Now, who do you think is better out of Chris Paul or Deron Williams? Let me know down in those comments below. Please, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.